Okay, so here's an example of our final project. We have our fabric swatches, right? There's going to be 6 of them, okay? Only 2 of them have to be new. So you have to have 2 new ones. 3 of them can be repeats from previous projects, and then use your plaid. So, I mean, unless you want to change them. So like, let's say you did your plaid for the plaid project. Like, I hate my plaid. Okay, make a new plaid. Follow the directions real carefully, make a new plaid. But you can use the plaid from your previous project in this project. And you can use 3, I'm going to let you use 3 patterns from previous projects, but I want 2 new ones. So the 2 new ones you're going to find on the internet. You may have to repair them. You may have to adjust them. And in a perfect world, I want one of them to be a texture. So it could be like a fur texture, or it could be like a knit. Like we did that knit sweater pattern. Like you could do that. It could be, so we have some of those patterns. You can use those, the texture patterns. And then one of them needs to be like a, I think the handout says like a floral pattern, but it can be, no, it can be or abstract, floral or abstract. So it can be like geometric shapes, but it needs to be like an image pattern, right? So 2 new patterns. And I tell you all this in your handout, so just follow it real carefully. Where the background is going to be the same. So you're going to use at least 2 images or more, but 2 images in your background. They're going to be in a background group. So we've done that. We've done that once or twice already. You're going to have a model. So you're going to find an image of a model. You can use, I would like you to use a newer model, like to try to find a new model, or a different model that you used from your previous project. But I'm going to be a little lenient on that. If you use, because you're going to be applying a new pattern to your, as long as you apply a new pattern to your model, you can use the model you used on the previous project. But I would prefer to see a new model, or just a model that you haven't used yet. Okay. So, but anyways, you're going to have a model, and you're going to apply, it can be on the top or the bottom, or if it's a dress or a skirt or a top or whatever, but you want to apply one of your patterns to that model in the way we talked about for project 6. And then another thing that's different for this project is we are actually going to be applying our patterns to digital flats. So these are the flats that you drew in your previous class. So in your, in your digital flat sketching class, or if it was called something else, they have a couple different names for it for different majors. But basically for your flat sketching class that you did in the computer, you're gonna just go through your old files, and hopefully you didn't throw them away or lose them, but you can find some garments. Pick your best ones. You're like, oh, I really like, and it's up to you. I want to see 4 garments front and back, 4 garments. So like, maybe you're like, well, I got 2 pairs of pants that I like. I've got this dress, and then I got this top, or I've got like 3 tops and this pants. I don't care, but I just want to see 3 garments front and back. And I'll show you how to get them into Photoshop. But basically, let me see here. I'll just show you here.
Oh, sorry, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So if we choose garments from like our previous assignment, then and they already like have a design that we did or something, do we like get rid of it?
Yes.
And just do a print?
Yes. So what you would do is, so like here you can see an example. You want it to be black and white. And so for instance, if it's an Illustrator and these are like filled with colors, just select them and then either fill them with white or fill them with like none, right? Like you can keep the gray, keep gray if you have gray for a shadow. But basically, yeah, no color, because we're going to color them in Photoshop. And if you have color, it'll mess it up. So you don't want it. So they want to be black and white, just like this, black and white, or like a black outline and then no fill, right? So, but yes, good question. And so this is it, basically. I actually got this from another student. So I just borrowed hers because hers was awesome. I'm like, oh, I don't need to draw anything. Great, I'll just use hers. So, but anyways, so that's it. Now, if you have a hard time, let's say every once in a while, there's a student where they lost all their previous work. Well, then you're going to have to draw them again. So you'll have to, so hopefully that's not anybody in this class. But if you have like 0 flats, digital flats like this, then you have to make them again. But maybe it's a good opportunity for you to do a real good one or something that you really wanted to do. That's great. But hopefully you don't have to redraw these. Hopefully you have some good flats saved on a flash drive or on your computer, and you can kind of pick and choose, like, oh, I like this jacket, but oh, I like the pants from this project. Oh, and I like the dress. You can pick and choose. I don't care which ones you use, but I just want to have 4 front and back. Okay. But good question. Yeah, no color, black and white. Black and white is perfect though. Black and white is fine. And then we're gonna apply. I'm gonna show you how to apply this stuff. So I'll show you that real soon. And then we're still gonna add text. So you're gonna name your garments, you're gonna name your fabric swatches, and then you're gonna name the overall look or theme of your project. Your mini collection has a theme. So I just called mine Unity, but you might have, I had a lot of good project 5s. When I graded project 5, I got a lot of great ideas from you guys. I was very pleased. So I can see that you guys have the creativity to come up with interesting names, and interesting names for your looks or themes. Very good. So I'm very proud of you guys. So just, again, you want to think of names that go along with your overall look and style. Unity felt pretty good. So it's kind of generic, but it felt pretty good with what I didn't think too hard on my sample because I had nothing to prove, but I felt it worked okay. So I picked Unity, but you might come up with a better name for your mini collection, and that's great. It can be anything. I'm fine with it. Okay. So any general questions though, before I talk about the tricky stuff of setting up all of these flat garments? Any general questions first? Okay, good.
I have a question actually.
Oh, okay, yes.
I was just wondering, because I know for the digital flat sketching class for our finals, she at least my teacher, she let us show it to her, and she reviewed it and told us if there was anything we needed to fix. Is there any chance that we could do that next week?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay,
here's what I'm going to do for this project. I will let you turn in your this overall project. I will let you, now we have 2 weeks to work on it, right? But I will check every 2 days and try not to finish it in 2 days, but I'll probably after this Saturday, I'll start checking every other day. And if you turned it in, I'll grade it right away. And then I'll give you suggestions. I'll say, oh, you missed this, this, and this. And then you can add that stuff and just turn it back in again when it's due. So yes, I will let you do that. And I'll do it more than once if you need to. So probably after Saturday, because you should work on it a little longer than a few days anyways. But after Saturday, what I'll do is I'll start checking. Usually I try to do my grading on Saturday morning. So I'll grade and I'll check to see if anyone turned this project in. If they did, I'll grade it and I'll give you your grade. And then I'll tell you what you missed, and you can just update it or fix it or make it look better. And then you can turn it in again. So yes, I will let you do that for this project, but the last day of class, it's due, which is the 11th week, Thursday. So it's not next Thursday, it's the Thursday after that. So that's the final due date. And so yeah, so that'll be it. And I'll check, I'll check the evening of the day before the final Thursday. So what is it, Wednesday? I'll check that Wednesday because I know a lot of people it's not a good idea to wait the last minute, but I will check that Wednesday. I'll check it let's see. I'm going to check I don't want to check too late because I want to enjoy my evening. I'll check it 2 o'clock on Wednesday, the day before it's due, but I'll check before that too. But I'm just saying Wednesday at 2 o'clock, the day before it's due, that's when I'm going to check. So if you didn't turn it in by then, I'm not going to review it and give you another chance, but you'll get chances before that. Great question. Any other questions before we go into the difficult parts? Okay, great. So let me just keep, but yes, I'll grade stuff early, and yes, that way you guys can get the best possible grade on this. So yeah. Okay, so let's see. So let's talk about, first, let's talk about getting a Photoshop, I'm sorry, an Illustrator file into Photoshop. Can you do that? Yes. And in fact, that's what you want to do. So let me show you. If you want, you can set up, you don't have to, but if you want, let's see, I'm going to set up a new document. I have everything opened up. So if you want, you can set up a new document. It's just going to be 11 by 17. So I'm going to go File, New, and you want to do a tabloid page, which is large. So I'm going to go Print, and then usually tabloid is in there. It's 11 by 17, and you want to have a wide page. A wide page is, they call it landscape. So here it is, and 300 pixels per inch. So remember, you're going to work at 300 pixels per inch, but then you're going to save a copy at 150 pixels per inch, and that's the one you're going to upload to me, right? But you always have a 300 ppi, pixels per inch, copy or work file on your computer, okay? Anyways, I'm going to create it. So here it is, it's empty, there's nothing in there. And normally I would start making my groups, right? So the best way to make a group, I'm just going to go Option for layers, Option, and I'm going to go New Group. So I want to have one for my background. You're going to have 2 or more image layers in your background group to make up your background. You're going to have a, let's see, New Group. You're going to have, I'm just going to call it Fabrics. Like, you could call it colorway, but it's not really a true colorway. A true colorway would be like one fabric but different color variations of it. But fabrics, colorway, as long as it is set apart. Fabrics, you can even call them patterns. You can call them your patterns. I'm just going to call it my fabrics. So as long as it's organized, that's fine. Let's see, I want another layer. I want a layer, or I'm sorry, a group. I want another group for my flats. So let's see, what am I going to call this? I'm just going to call it garments. Okay, garments. And then you want to have one for your type. So let's see, New Group, you're going to have your type. Okay, and then if you want to use, this is just kind of what I recommend. If you use more groups, that's totally fine. Like, I'll show you, you could separate each garment into its own group. You could have like jacket group, pants group, dress group. Like, depending on what garments you have, you could have each garment a group if you want, but you don't have to. You could just put all your garments in one big group, garments. Okay, so as long as you're using layer groups and you're organized in some way, I'm pretty lenient. You can even have some layers, a few outside of a group. Like if they don't really fit into a group, like your model. Like if you just want your model to be separate, she doesn't have to be in a group. But if you have different layers like applying to her, like the garment, like if you're applying a fabric to her top and she's multiple layers and you have an adjustment layer, maybe you do want to put her into a group. If it's a few layers to make up one element, you probably want to group it. Anyways, I leave that up to you. The first thing I need, I'm gonna add a solid color layer to my background so we're not just staring at white. So I'm gonna go solid color. I'm just gonna pick a color. I always do blue. I'm getting tired of blue. Let's do light green. Oh my gosh, that's a no. Light orange. Okay, this isn't too bad on the eyes. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to open my flats into Photoshop. And here's what you want to do. You actually want to open the Illustrator file into Photoshop. So I'll show you. I'm going to go File, Open. Then I'm just going to find it. So wherever you saved your flats, you're going to kind of go into that folder and you're going to kind of find them. And it's going to be an Illustrator file. So here's my Adobe Illustrator file. Now, when I open an Adobe Illustrator file in Photoshop, the file becomes rasterized. Now, we talked about rasterized a little bit, but basically it becomes a picture of your project, meaning you can't edit it. It's just going to be a picture. Now, that's good and bad. It's good because we don't need to edit it. If you need to edit, if you need to fix your flats, fix them in Illustrator first, then save it, then open that in Photoshop. But hopefully it's just finished and you can just open it up. So I'm going to open mine up. So I'm going to open my Illustrator file in Photoshop. So I'm going to hit open. Now, when you open an Illustrator file in Photoshop, you kind of get this, this little options menu. Now, normally this is, the defaults are good. So here we go. I've got, you want your resolution to be 300 pixels per inch. And so that's good. The image size, the height and width, that'll just be like what it was originally. So that's okay. Now the mode, we're working in RGB, but grayscale is okay for this black and white line. So I tested it and you don't have to convert this. You can just leave this grayscale. But if you're worried, here, I'm going to change mine to RGB just for kicks. But grayscale will work. I'm just going to change it to, hopefully it won't add color. Let's find out. I'm going to hit OK. So here it is. So here you can see, here's my, it opened my flats in Photoshop, and now it's just one layer. It's just one layer. It's just a picture. So I can't go in and edit my lines. I can erase. It's like a picture now. It's like a photograph. I'm going to zoom in real quick. I just want to make sure there's no color in there. Nope, no color. Okay. Because I did RGB. I was a little just testing it. Now, notice that there's white filled in my garments. That's okay. And then this checkerboard represents nothing. So there's nothing there. So I'm okay. So now I want to drag this into my project. So I'm going to use, I could drag the layer, or I could just use the move tool. I'm just going to drag this into my project. So I'm just going to drag it in. I hold my left mouse. Ooh, I want this one. Now I haven't let go of my mouse, and then I let go of my mouse button here, and it places it in my project. Now the problem with this is, and this is a good problem, the problem is my flats are way too big. But that's a good problem. It's okay to have an image that's too large. You just make it smaller. What you can't do, you can't have a small image and make it bigger. You can't make a small image bigger. You can make a large image and make it smaller. In fact, it's better to have a large image that you have to make smaller. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out. Why am I going to zoom out? Because the selection of that image might go far beyond my artboard. Now I want to transform it. There's a lot of different ways on how to transform. You could use your move tool with the show transform controls button checkmarked. That will show you your bounding box or your transformation box. But I don't like to use the show transform controls. It kind of bothers me. So, but you can use that if you want. Here's how I like to do my transformations. I'd use Control T. So Control T will temporarily give me the transformation options. And then when I can transform it, and then when I'm done transforming, like sizing or scaling, I press Enter and the box disappears. So watch, I'm done, I press Enter. And now the bounding box, the transform box goes away. And I believe that's called, what's it called? Free transform, free transform. So I like free transform because I don't like looking at that box. But it's up to you. I don't care how you do your transformation. A lot of students like to use this, show transform controls, but it bugs me because then you always have this box and it's like, like I don't know, it just bothers me because it distracts me. So, but it's up to you. You can always turn it off. You're like, Dave, why don't you just uncheck it? And then when you need to do it, you check it again. Of course, you could totally do that. So whatever is convenient for you. Anyways, I transformed this, but I still have a problem. My flats are filled with white. Now, when you copy and paste your flats, maybe portions of them will be filled with white, but then other parts will be transparent or like have no fill. That's fine. But here's what you can do. You want to set your blending mode to multiply. Remember how I said for the test, multiply makes white disappear? Well, I want the white in my flats to disappear. So here, I'll just drag my layers out. So here's my layer. Here's my flats. You want to name your layers. So I'm going to I'll name it flats, or you can name it anything. Like you can name it garment line. You can name it line art. You can name it flats. I don't care. Anyways, I named it. Now, The blending mode, the layer blending mode for this is normal. I want to change the normal up here at the top of layers to multiply. When I do that, the white disappears. And so it's kind of awesome. It's like I don't have to worry about unfilling all the whites. I can just set it to multiply blending mode, which is real nice. Okay, then I'm looking at where my flats are, but they're in the wrong group. My flats are in my background group. So I'm just going to drag this into my garments group. So I'm just going to drag it right there. So there it is. Now it's in the correct group. I'm going to close my background. I don't need that. Okay, now all my flats are on one page, right? That's okay. You may not have all your flats on one page. You may have a jacket on one page, a dress on another page. Like you may have up to 4 different flat drawings that you have to open up. Can you do that? Of course you can. You can have more than one layer of flats, but it's if you have like 4 of them, you might even just arrange it in Illustrator. Like in Illustrator, you're like, you might just copy and paste, like, so it's just one page. Like I want this dress from this one. I want this jacket. I want these 2 pairs of pants. So it's just one image. And then you save it as whatever you want, flats for final project or just flats for Photoshop, or name it whatever you want. And then you just open up that new, you can adjust these in Illustrator so that they're convenient. I don't care what you do, but it's up to you. Another thing I can do is this, because this is a picture of my flats, I can kind of move them around, and you can erase, like if you had text, you don't need this text because I would rather you type your text again, even though this might be the asymmetrical rope jacket. I want to type that so that that text is editable. But because the text is part of the image of my flats, I can just erase this. Don't erase your flats, but I can erase this part. When you erase, though, you want to make sure it's at 100%, right? 100% opacity to erase. So I can just erase this part. Now, if you just don't have text on your flats, then you don't even have to worry about this. But this is something I have to do. If there's like a little flaw in your flat, you just want to erase it, you can erase it. But it'd be better to fix that in Illustrator, right? Another thing I can do is this. I can make a selection. Here's my lasso, right? I select around an object. That's for our test. And I can kind of move this around. So once I make a selection around a garment, I can use my move tool and I can kind of move it up. Maybe I want maybe I want these to be, near the top. I'm going to use my move tool to move this up. That gives me, maybe I'll put my swatches here. You kind of want to think about how you're going to organize all of your imagery, because there's a lot of imagery. Like you're going to have swatches, you're going to have a model. Like maybe I want to have my model here. Maybe I want to have my swatches here, my fabrics, and then maybe I want to have my model here. I don't know. But you'll be thinking about that stuff when you work on this. Okay, but anyways, I'm going to leave it like that for now. There's one more thing you can do. But let me just stress first, it's easier if all your flats are on one layer. That's what I recommend. But in my previous class, I kind of talked a little too much about, like, you could separate these flats. I'll show you, and then I'm going to undo it. So let me show you. Let's say I wanted this dress to be in its separate group. Now, you don't have to do this. I'm just going to give you the knowledge. I'm going to select around it. Now, if I cut this and paste it again, watch, I'm going to cut it. So Control X will cut. So Control X will cut. If you're on a Mac, it's probably Command X. So I cut it. Now, if I paste it, it'll paste it into its own layer. So Control V. So there it is. Now, when you paste it, it puts it at normal. It puts it at normal blending mode. So here it is. You can see it right here. I can name this dress. Right? So now my dress garment, and I can put it to multiply blending mode. So I go from normal to multiply. Now you're probably thinking, oh, well, now it's separate. Like, do you really have to do that? No, you don't have to. But the reason why this might be useful is here, I have it saved already. Here I did it. So here I have my jacket. Here, I'll open it up. Oh my gosh, let me hide all this other stuff. You don't have to do this, okay? This is just if you're super organized and you want to organize it this way. I want to open your mind to different ways to organize your stuff. But what I did was I cut my jacket and I pasted it and I made a jacket group. So here's my jacket group. Everything for my jacket is in this group. I have the jacket line art. So here's the line. I have my highlights, which are these like white highlights. I have my shadows, and then I have my fabric. And then so it's all this jacket stuff is in here. The benefit of this is I could move this around independently of my other garments. Currently, I only have like this stuff in my other garments. So I can kind of move this. Oh, something in there is locked, so I have to unlock it. But anyways, I can move my garments around and I can move my jacket separately. The question is, do you really want to go through all that effort to like separate each flat? Well, don't do it if you don't want to. But it's something that you can do, but I'm not going to talk about it too much, but you could do this. The benefit is I can move this around, like, maybe I want my jacket here, or no, maybe I want to move it over a little bit. And you can move around all your garments. Whereas if I do it in this version, they're all just going to be stuck in place. So if you do it this way, I recommend you kind of organize where your flats are going to be and then just go with it. You could always technically separate stuff later, but that's a lot of work. So I'm just trying to make you avoid unnecessary work that could be frustrating. Now, currently my dress is separate than my flats. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge them together. Normally you don't want to merge stuff. But if you have multiple, let's say you had to drag in one garment flat at a time and you have 4 different flats and you kind of arrange them and you want all 4 of your flats to be one layer, you can do this. So I select both of my flats, and I did that by holding Control to select more than one layer at a time. And then I just want to merge these. Let me see if it gives me the option to merge. Yeah, merge layers. So that means it will merge my selected layers. But you only want to do this you only want to do that if you have to. Like you don't, like I'm not going to merge all my background images. Those are going to be separate. But like for these, they're all going to be on the same layer, so I can merge those. Anyways, whenever you merge or duplicate, it always puts it back to normal mode. So again, my flats, I need to change them back to multiply blending mode. Okay, so that's enough talk about flats. Hopefully you can get them in there and work on them. Now, the next step is I need to fill these with solid color. Now, how do I do that? Well, the hard way is this. You're going to make a new layer. So I'm going to make a new layer and I'm going to name this, you can name this, I'm going to name it flat color. But if you named it color, that's okay. If you named it garment color, I don't care, but flat color, because this is going to be flat color. And I'm going to put this underneath my flats line. Let's see. So that's my line art. This is my color. So the hard way would be this. You could use your lasso and you could trace, oh my gosh, this will take forever. I really don't want to do this, but you could trace these and fill them with a solid color. I'm just going to do this one. Oh man, it's killing me. But sometimes this is a very accurate way. Sometimes it's necessary. Okay. So I select it. You want to make sure, in fact, I would lock your flats. I'm going to lock my flats. Okay, so I'm on my flat color. And I'm just going to fill this with a color. I'm just going to pick blue. So Alt, delete to fill. Control D, deselect. Now that's the hard way. Actually, there's a harder way. There's a harder way to fill this with color. I could use a paintbrush. I'm just showing you the hard way, and then I'll show you the easy way. I could use, hard edge brush. So hard edge brush, you can go, once you pick your paintbrush, you can go up to your options button up here and pick the hard edge. And then you want it to be 100% opaque because you want it to be solid. And I could do this. This will take forever though. I could go in and I could fill this with color. And then if I make a mistake, oh gosh, that's going to take forever. I could use my eraser. And I could use my eraser to erase the flaws. But as you can tell, that's going to take a very long time to do. So what can I do as a faster way? Well, here's what I recommend. I recommend you lock lock your line layer. So I locked my line layer. On my line layer, there is basically black outlines and then white fills. So even though I can't see the white fill because it's a multiply blending mode, I can use my magic wand and I can just select the white. So watch, if I select the white, now this selected all of the white, which may be okay if you just want to fill everything a flat color. The problem is you kind of want things to be like, I want my pants to be filled a separate color than my jacket. But here, I'm going to fill it for kicks. I'm going to fill everything with blue. So I'm going to do Alt Delete to, oh, now it wouldn't let me fill because I'm on the wrong layer, right? I locked my line art. You don't want to fill color on your line art layer. And this is the most dangerous thing about this. Don't fill color on your line, your flats line layer. Lock it. That's why I locked it. And I almost filled it. I almost made the mistake, but because I locked it, it saved me. So if I can make that mistake, that means you can make that mistake. Anyways, I need to go back to the flats color. So I went back to the flats color layer. Now I can fill that area with color. So now it's Alt Delete. So what I did was I used the flats line layer to make the selection. So watch, I did this. I made the selection. Then I went to the flats color layer and filled it on a separate layer. You want your flats to be just black and white line or just black line. You want no color there, right? Anyways, I did that. Now, the reason why it selected all of the white, it didn't select this gray area, is because when I used my magic wand, contiguous was unchecked, right? But you do want things to be different colors. Like you do want your, oh gosh, what's that? Go away. No, go away. Go away, search. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Anyways, you do want stuff to be different colors. So what I can do is I can go back to my flats, use my magic wand, but this time check mark contiguous. Contiguous will only select the area that you click on. So I can click here, I can click here and here. But the problem is you have to hold Shift to add to the selection. So I want to add all of these to, now that's part of your test, right? So if I hold Shift, I can add these parts, and you want to very carefully select those colors and not select the black line, which of course I just did. Okay. Oh my gosh. Ahaha. Okay. Got it. Okay. So I selected the colors. My contiguous is checked, so it only selects parts. Then I go back to my flat color and I can fill this with a different color, like brown. And then Control D to deselect. Now, if you, sometimes you're going to get, like you might zoom in, you might have little gaps, like it's hard to see, but there's a little gap here. And then it didn't fill this with color either. So what I can do is when you do the magic wand, it doesn't always select everything. Like there might be, like here's some little spots. So what I could do is I can use my eyedropper to select this blue color. So I'm going to select the blue color. So here's my blue. Then I'm just going to use my paintbrush and just paint these spots out. Like, so I got, oh, the reason why it looks like a dark blue is because there is a dark gray. Remember? So there was like a dark gray that's blending with my lighter blue. But anyways, that's what, let me see if there's any other gaps. If I want this, she's kind of got this rope belt. I can just paint blue on that and it'll be like a dark blue. So I'm just oh, here's a little, it's hard to see, but there's a little gap here. So you might need to do stuff like this. Like here's a little bit of a gap. So I'm just going to fill that in. And the reason why we have those gaps is because the black line isn't only a black line. Along the edge are some light gray. There's some light gray squares that may have not have been colored. So you just have to go in and just fill them in with blue. Ooh, see, in fact, you can see a lot of it. Ew, there's a lot of it I have to do. The black isn't as big of a deal. Usually it's around the stitches or the little corners that are a problem. Okay, whatever. I got flat colors. So you can imagine here, let me change this dress real quick. So let's see, I'm gonna go back up here. I'm gonna go dress. And then I'm gonna go back to my flat color layer, back to here. I'm just gonna give it a, how about a red dress? You stare at red too long. Oh, but look at this. Okay, so again, I need to go in and select all in here too with red. Now I could have more carefully selected all these little spots, but anyways, I'm just gonna use a big paintbrush. I'm just gonna paint all this red. Okay. Even on these straps, by the straps are multiplied. So if I paint over that, they become more rich in color. Okay, that's good enough for now. Okay, so I have my line art. My gosh, it's a lot of stuff. I have my line art. I have my flat colors. Now it's time to apply a pattern. So what's the best way to apply a pattern? Well, here, I'm going to go empty layer. Empty layer is going to be my pattern, and I'm going to go fill. So I'm going to go edit fill. I'm going to find a pattern. This is such a humongous pattern, but I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go, okay. So here's my pattern. It's a separate layer. But here is where this pattern is very large for that tiny top that I'm going to fill it with. So you can transform your pattern to be smaller to fit the size or the scale of your garment. Now, I'm just going to use Control T to do transformation, Control T, and I'm going to scale it down. So it's about about the size I want. Now, I can only make it so small, this is probably as small as I can get it. So that's fine. I'm just gonna work with that. So after you do a transformation like that, you're gonna press Enter, or you can click on the check mark. There's a little check mark up there. Okay. Now, I'm gonna make this semi-transparent to begin with. So let's see here. I'm gonna go. So here's I can name it fabric. I can, whatever fabric that is, fabric, motif fabric, or whatever I want to call it. I'm going to lower the opacity of that layer just so I can see that top underneath it. Okay, there it is. Now, here's where you want to transform it a little bit. You want to distort it. The problem with this garment is it's so flat to begin with. There's not a lot of distortion already. It's mostly flat, so you don't really have to do much. So what am I going to do? Well, one thing I want to do is I don't need this excess fabric. I only need the fabric that kind of surrounds the garment itself. So I want to kind of erase this. I could use the eraser, or I could use a rectangular marquee, and I can kind of select this excess area. Remember, make sure you're on the correct layer. I'm on the fabric layer. Okay, so here it is. I'm on the fabric layer. Now I made a rectangular selection because I want to cut away. I want to cut away this excess. Now, to cut, it's Control X. Now, normally when you cut something, it wants you to paste it. But if you never paste it, it's as if you deleted it, kind of. So I just cut it and I'm not going to paste it. Okay, so now I can kind of see that my garment kind of fits my fabric a little better. There's one more thing I can do. I can kind of scrunch it. Now, I'm saying scrunch. I don't really have to scrunch this, but I can kind of push it in a little bit. So I'm just going to use Control T. Now, when I push in, I'm going to distort it. So I actually have to hold Shift so that it will let me distort it. Now, you don't necessarily have to do this, but I want to scrunch in my fabric just so that it's warped a little. You're like, oh my gosh, do I really have to do that? No, you don't. I'll have to show you the transformation I'll show you on this dress. It'll make more sense. Anyways.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we have to color the garment and then put a pattern on top? Or can we just put a pattern?
I highly you'll see why I have these flat colors. I'm not even going to use these flat colors, but I'm going to use them for selection purposes. I'm going to use them. I might use them for color. So I do recommend that you flat those colors first, because you'll see how I use them to select the garments later. But you don't have to use that color. So for instance, like I have a blue here. I don't have to use this blue, but I do have to use that new Photoshop fill color. So I'll show you why it will be necessary soon. Okay, so anyways, I want to distort this a little bit. And this one's, there's not much distortion here, but the easiest distortion, in my opinion, in fact, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this. Okay, and I'm going to use that on that other dress. But for here, I'm just going to show you. It's going to go edit, transform, warp. This is an easy way to do a subtle warp, okay? And it works pretty good, okay? So, but it's under edit, transform, warp. There's different kinds of warps. There's like puppet warp and perspective warp. They're kind of, puppet warp is more for a complex, I mean, you could try it, but it's for more complex vector graphic part things. And so this works pretty good for what we're doing. So this is what I recommend. Anyways, I'm going to go warp. Oh, haha, that's funny. I meant to do this one. In fact, screw it. I'm just going to apply this to my dress. I'm just going to show you over there because there's more curves. There's more curves over here. I got to make this bigger. You don't normally make things bigger after the fact, but here we go. I would have scaled this down originally perfectly. Okay, so here we go. So, but there's some curves in this dress. So again, let me show you again. So, okay, do I got the correct one selected? Yes. It's semi-transparent temporarily so I can see the dress underneath it. Then I'm going to go edit, transform, warp. And when I do this, I get a grid. Actually, you don't see the grid. There's a way to show the grid, but you have these grid points on the edge. And I can like warp it out, or I can push it in. So I can generally follow the shape of this dress. So the dress kind of bows out a little bit. So I'm going to kind of pull this out a little bit. And these are very similar to direction lines with the pen tool. This one is going to bow out a little, right? And then here at the waist, it kind of pushes in. So here's another one. I can push this part in and maybe pull this one out more. I can even push this up a little. Yes. And then maybe, so you can see that I can get a more, I'm going to pull this out and then I want to push this one in. It doesn't appear to be affecting it that much. Let's see. But it is a little bit. But again, the garment is already so flat. It's kind of difficult to make a true crazy transformation. But anyways, this looks pretty good for now. Then what I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to press enter. And here's why you wanted to have those flats, because what I can do is I need to mask out this fabric so it only applies to the dress. And I could go to the flats line and select it. That could work. But because I already have this color over here, let's see. Oh gosh. I can just select the red using my magic wand. So it's a solid color. I can select this and I can select this. Then I could go back to my fabric and I selected them with my magic wand because they're just a solid color. Then I could go back here to the fabric and now I can make a mask because I only have a selection around that dress. So I'm going to go mask button, which is the box with the white circle. I can click there. Then I want to see my line art and you can see that it works. Now, technically, I probably don't need the flats color. I probably could have gone to the flats line and selected here. But in my experience, I find it's more convenient to have these colors and that they're colored individually. I don't know, like you'll see all the stuff we're going to be doing. Like the fact that my sleeve is a different color, I can just select the sleeve easily. Well, yes, let's see, almost. I don't know, it's easier. Anyways, but let me do one more thing. There's another way to do a transformation and it is liquify. Liquify, I don't know, liquify doesn't work very well for these flat dresses and pants. But here on the sleeve, you can see the sleeve is kind of rounded and, you know, I can kind of expand and it might work pretty good on the sleeve. But as far as this goes, this is mostly flat. Same with this jacket, it's mostly flat. What I would do is if I was going to work this, I would make it like a bell shape kind of for my fabric, and then I would just apply it. But for this, let's try the liquify. So the first thing I need to do is I need to get a fabric. So I'm going to get an empty layer. Here's my empty layer. And I'm going to fill it with a pattern. So I'm going to go edit, fill. I'm going to find one of my patterns. I need to find a tiny pattern. I guess I don't know. I don't like any of these. I guess I'm going to go with this. And then I'm going to scale it down because that's such a huge pattern. So I'm going to scale it down. Let's see. I want it to be big enough. I have to hold shift to distort it. So if you ever, now it's okay to distort. Normally you want to avoid distortion on a pattern, but because this is well, that's maybe distorted a little too much, but I can distort it a little bit because that sleeve is thin and wrapping around like a cylinder. Anyways, that's good enough for now. Okay, so now I'm going to lower the opacity on this, and let's talk about liquify. I'm going to lower the opacity so that I can see underneath it. Okay, and then here it is. I can name this sleeve or whatever I want. But let's look at the liquify filter. Liquify is good for obvious curves and stuff like that. Okay, so let me show you. I'm going to go filter, liquify. So here's liquify. Now, when you do this, you're going to get a preview, and this might, okay, and here it is. Here's a preview. And I want to zoom in. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. And I'm going to scroll up. Now, normally you don't see all the other layers. In fact, it'll look like this. Now, if you can't see all the other layers, like how do I know how to distort this? I don't, because it's a solid pattern. So the option, and I believe this option is new. I don't remember this from the past, but under view here, view options, you can show backdrop. That shows you the layers, yeah, all layers underneath it. Here I can see the shape of that sleeve and et cetera, et cetera. Now, I don't care if I warp it outside of the sleeve, because remember, I'm going to make a mask on that sleeve. So these sleeves are rounded. So I would recommend bloat. Bloat will kind of round, and you don't want to go crazy with this stuff. So watch, I'm going to go bloat. And I'm just going to, now the size of your brush determines how much is going to happen. So if your brush is really big, you're going to get a really weird effect. Like it almost looks like a sphere, right? So I'm going to undo that, Control Z. If your brush is smaller though, like I want it to kind of fit a sleeve or like a kind of one of these parts of the sleeve, a segment, you can make your brush smaller. And remember, you can make your brush smaller by using the left bracket, and that's on your test, right? So left bracket is smaller, right bracket is bigger. So I kind of want it to be about this size, and I'm going to use bloat. Now, when you use these tools, and there's other tools over here, they kind of do what they say, but the rate is how fast it's going to happen. So if the rate is like 100%, it'll happen real fast. I recommend a lower rate, like 20 or 30. I guess I'm at 38. I'm going to try this. So I'm going to go once, twice, maybe a third time. You don't want to overdo it. Once, twice, three, once, maybe a little more. Okay, I did a little more. Okay, there it is. So I made those segments more spherical a little bit. Okay, then they have the smudgy one. What's this one? Forward warp. This one is, now again, you don't want to have a big brush. It's kind of like a smear. In fact, let me try it here. There, see? Well, I want this to be smaller. See the rate. Let me decrease the density. Let me see if that helps. Nope. Let me put that to 0. Let me see what happens. The problem is I don't have pressure. Let me try it. Let me try to lower the pressure. Oh, that helped. Okay, good. So for what is this one called? Forward warp pressure. I was thinking this had to, because I have pressure sensitive equipment, but pressure slows it down. So that's kind of like the rate. Okay, so now I'm going to make my brush small. I'm just going to kind of warp this a little. Boy, maybe I want a little more pressure than that. I can just kind of warp it a little. So this would be useful here's the thing, for flats, the flat drawing is mostly flat. There's not a lot of three-dimensionality. But if you're trying to create like a painting that had real three-dimensionality, you might use these tools to help you. Or if you wanted to, like, I don't know, round something, you could round it a little bit. But anyways, this is the warp tools, and it's subtle, but Liquify is pretty good. So I'm using, what am I using? What is this? Forward warp, just to that's kind of like for wrinkles and curve, like wrinkles and folds in fabric. And then for something that's spherical, I use bloat. But there's different weird things. Twirl, like I don't know if there's much of a purpose. Smoothing, maybe. Reconstruct, I don't even know what that does. Probably reconstructs. Push left. Can I push stuff to the left? So you can kind of experiment with these things, but you don't have to use these too much. But anyways, when you're done, you press, there's OK down here, or you can just press Enter. So I'm going to press OK. And you can see it kind of warped a little bit. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. Now, again, I need to mask out this sleeve to fit the sleeve, right? So let's see. I'm going to go back to my flat colors, and then I'm just going to select this blue. And then I'm going to go back to my sleeve, and then I'm going to make that mask. So I'm going to make the mask. It's the mask button. And there it is. Now, I can put this to 100%, right? Or if I want to blend it with the color, I have a blue underneath. So it's kind of like a pink. If I want to blend this with the blue underneath, I can lower the opacity. You can do that, but you don't have to either. But that's going to make it more like a purple, or I can just leave it. Maybe I don't want the blue underneath. Maybe I would go here, change this to like a cream color, like maybe a creamy white, and then I could go back and just lower the opacity here, and it'll give me a lighter pink. So in fact, here, I'll just try it real quick. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, wrong layer. Okay, and I'm just going to fill it with this cream color. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to my pink, lower the opacity so it blends in. So it's kind of lighter and pinker. So it's up to you, but you have a lot of flexibility with that stuff. So I talked about warping. And I talked about, but like I said, here, let me do one more. I got this copy here. Let me put it on this jacket real quick. I'll just do it fast. Let's see. Oop, wrong one. Got to make sure you select the correct layer. Again, you don't want to make these things bigger after the fact. I'm just doing it because it's a demonstration. Now, again, I want to do that warp. The jacket is kind of, the arms are to the side. It's kind of like a bell shape. So again, I'm just going to try it. I'm going to go Edit, Transform, Warp. And this time I'm going to push these in and then pull this bottom part out. Now, again, it's not making a huge difference. And I can push this in, pull that out. I don't know, but it warps it a little bit. It's something to keep in mind to make it a little bit irregular. I can even round it. Let's see, can I pull this? Yes, I can. Now, again, the bottom is not very curved, but if it bowed like on the garment, then yeah, I would want to pull that out. Oh, you're gonna make me do it this way. Anyways, you can see it. So that warps it a little. I'm gonna press Enter. And then again, I'm gonna go to my jacket. I'm gonna select the blue. Oh gosh, let me see, let me just try to do this. I'm gonna select all the blue. And I'm going to go back here, and then I'm going to make my mask. So there it is. And again, I could lower the opacity on this. Oh, it is low. I could lower it even more. It could be like a blue jacket with just that slight texture. So it's up to you. And maybe you're like, well, I don't want my jacket to be blue. Can this be like purple? Well, then yeah, I'll just go to my color here and fill it with purple. Or you're like, or you could do it this way. I want this to be more purple. So I'm going to use an adjustment layer. Remember these? Adjustment, color balance. This is on the test. Color balance is an adjustment layer. And you can make an adjustment layer, a clipping mask by doing this. A lot of people will make it a clipping mask before they change it, because if I don't, it's going to change everything. So I'm just going to make this a clipping mask first. So I have my color balance adjustment layer, option button for layers, create clipping mask. So now it's a clipping mask, has a little bent arrow pointing down. It's affecting this pattern. Now I'm going to adjust the properties, and I want this to be more red to make it, well, okay. This needs to be more opaque for that to happen. Okay, I'm going to go back to this. Whatever, you get the idea. I could change, let's see, it has highlights. So highlights are going to be more purple too. Red. But you get the idea. You can change stuff. You can adjust it. Now the problem is some of this pattern is going over into my pants. So, I mean, I could just, whatever, paint black in there to make that go away. Let's see. I'm painting black in this mask to hide this pattern that kind of overlap my pants. Okay, there it is. So that's tricky, but not impossible. The warping that I'm showing you looks good, but it's only worth, I believe, 4 points. Let me double check here. So like if you're having a hard time with the warping, just try your best. If it's not perfect, let's see if I can find it here. Oh, no, it's worth a lot. Well, let's see, application. Okay, it's part of your grade. So the warping is part of a 12-point grade that includes your patterns being. So if they're not perfect, you might lose a couple points on your fabrics if they're not warped all that great. So like I'll be kind of looking out to see if they change, if they're just completely flat or if they change a little bit, even if they just change a little bit. But don't stress out too much about making these warps absolutely perfect. What matters more is that you can apply these plaids, not plaids, these patterns, these fabrics, and maybe a plaid to your garments. That's like, this is more important that I actually applied the patterns. That's more important than the warping. You do want to do some warping, but it's more important to you for your grade that the patterns are on these garments. Okay, so what's the next step? The next step is adding some shading, some highlights, and some shadows. So let's see. Okay, when did we start? Did we start at, our class started at 12, right? So we're like over our break time. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a short break. Then I'm gonna show you how to do that shading. And the shading is also, you wanna do it. You wanna include it. Here, I'll show you on my project. It's right here. See how I have some like, here I've got some like highlights and then I got some shadows. This one doesn't here. Oh, I must have hid my shadows. Hold on. Oh my gosh, here they are. Yeah, so here are my shadows. Okay, so here I got shadows and I got some highlights, and they're going to be separate layers. So we'll talk about this when we come back from the break. So I'm going to stop recording. Let's see here.